There's a water protector who is leading. She's a leader in this movement to protect the Salish Sea in particular and all life in it. And her name is Tahlequah. And Tahlequah was born about 26 years ago. Part of the southern resident killer whales that are an ecotype just specific to the Salish Sea. There's hundreds of thousands of orcas out there in the world, but there's only 73 Salish Sea orcas, and that's a very small number. And so when she was born, like all calves born, like all life when it's born, it's like hope for life, right? She traveled around with her mother and her grandmother. Then when her grandmother died, her mother became the eldest, and now she's an elder. So because there's only 73 orcas, they're endangered, meaning that they could go extinct. Of all the endangered species, they're the only ones that we know and have named every single one of them. But what's happening is, what do we know? What's the main source of southern residents' food? What's their main food source? What kind of salmon in particular? Chinook salmon. And what do we know about the Chinook salmon? Because we've studied them. How are they doing? What does bad mean? Yeah, mostly the dams, it has to do with toxins. So pollution in the water, again, like something that we can try to change. And you're right, dams. Snake River Dam in particular has runs for Chinook salmon, but most of them, like Rowan just said, are getting caught either on their way up. They never make it all the way up to their birth creek, right? Like the last story I told about Sumi, the salmon. Or when they're on their way back down, they get caught in the turbines, or they die in the slack water behind the dam because it's so hot. What kind of species are salmon? Begins with a K.
Keystone.
Very good. So they're a keystone species, meaning people, bear, eagle, even the trees in the forest up by the birth creek rely on those salmon for minerals brought up and left in their carcasses from the ocean, right? So everything relies on salmon. So when the salmon are in trouble, everything's in trouble. And in particular, the southern resident orcas are in trouble. So her baby died of starvation because Tahlequah didn't have enough to give her. And she was heartbroken, as any mother would be. And so was the rest of her family that witnessed her baby's death right after it was born, half an hour after it was born. And so she did something that orcas sometimes do, but she ended up doing it for much longer. She did it for 17 days. For more than 2 weeks, she kept her baby afloat and traveled along with her pod over 1,000 miles. The fact that this calf died, it became known to people all over the world because it was so unusual for any animal in the natural world to be carrying its baby. It was photographed and videoed, and it was on social media and on television and in the newspapers and on the radio, right? So her grief, it was called the tour of grief is what people started calling it. And I think about it more as a ceremony. 2 years later, she had another calf, and it survived, Phoenix, a boy, a male. So she's had 2 calves that have lived, and then she had the one that died. Well, just right before Christmas, she had another calf. And on New Year's Eve, they saw her carrying that calf, and she's still carrying it right now. So she's doing another tour of grief, another ceremony of grief. And we have to think about this as a collective ceremony because they're all together. They all stay together. she was right here, right off of Vashon, carrying her calf, her dead calf. It's a way of turning her grief into action and inspiring us human beings to take action. We were jumping up and down for joy when we saw them, right? Remember that day? Running alongside and seeing them, and it was so, and everybody that's there, and everybody's looking and taking pictures and cheering, and it's so amazing. There's so much awe and reverence for these creatures, right? What she's saying to all of us, I think, is help. Our babies are dying. And so she's saying to the world, she's saying to all of us in particular that live around the Salish Sea, orcas need salmon. We need to breach the dam. We educate ourselves and then we go and educate others, inspired by who? Orcas, and in particular right now, Tahlequah.